super excited to share this with you because last year was kind of one big experiment, and it turned into an experiment that generated an additional $1 million in profit in our business. I started out the year and I said to my team, I said, this year, my focus is peace, purpose, and profitability. Period. That's what I wanted to basically play with and see what we could do. I wanted to see how much peace and space could I create in my business while also growing profit, because there is such an emphasis on you have to do all the things all the time in order to grow a business. And what I've found is the polar opposite. The more simple you keep things, the more streamlined you keep things, the more you actually can grow and make an impact. So if this is exciting to you, hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe for new videos every week. This is the place to be to build a peaceful, purposeful, and profitable online education business. From 6 years of experience in this industry, trying a whole bunch of different things and serving nearly 3,000 people in building their online course businesses based on their unique genius. And if that's something you're interested in doing, you can take it a step further. There is a link below this video in the description to apply to speak to a real person on my team to see how we can best support you on that journey. So let's get into this without further ado. So what's really fascinating about this to me is that I very much so fell into a trap for a long time of thinking that I needed to do the podcast, the speaking engagements, everything to be out there, be seen, to reach more people. And I really tested myself by saying no to all of these things last year. And I definitely sensed some fear. I sensed some nervousness in myself because I was like, well, what if I become irrelevant? And when I really drilled down on what mattered in the business, I didn't need these things in order to be successful in my way. So I didn't do any podcasts, speaking engagements. I wasn't really across all the platforms. You didn't see me on TikTok. You didn't see me on a bunch of different places. My main core platform remained YouTube. Yes, I use Instagram from time to time or Facebook, but my main platform remains YouTube, and I'm going to dig into why that was so vitally important to increasing profit in just a second. In addition, I purposely, and this is going to sound so strange, I purposely tanked my views on YouTube. I had the lowest views on my channel last year, and it turned out to be incredibly fruitful. Sounds bizarre, right? What do I mean by that? Okay, so by ensuring that I was only speaking to my ideal client, my views were so targeted. Having said that, the more specific you get in who you're serving with your content, the less views you're gonna have ultimately, but the higher those views are actually going to convert into people who really want to work with you and are super invested in your mission and what you're talking about. So I know that sounds bizarre, but that's the truth. So I didn't focus on any virality at all. I wasn't trying to go viral. I was not trying to get millions of views. I was not trying to go all over the place and be seen by everybody. I wanted to be seen by the right people. PR, I've been really fortunate to have some incredible PR throughout the years, and Entrepreneur and Forbes and Inc. and all of these places. But I basically took a hiatus because I really wanted to test and see if I don't actively do this and pursue those opportunities or say yes to those opportunities, what happens? And I worked less. I would, for the most part, work a 4-day week and then kind of be in and out on Fridays and kind of treat that as a flex day or just sometimes take it off entirely. We had our most profit ever, like I said, adding an additional $1 million in profit. And our client results, I tried to draw a mind blown. That's not my genius zone. I'm not an artist, but you get the point. We're incredible. We actually created an entire channel dedicated to just our client results because they're so phenomenal, so incredible, and we have so many of them at this point. And that's what worked really well. So how did this all work? And what was my actual plan when I break it down, and how can you apply it to your own business? In an online course business, there's really only these factors that matter to your growth. So you have an offer, you have your ideal client, you have your messaging. Here's what I've found to be the key. Because I have had multiple offers in the past or multiple online courses, I made a conscious decision to only have one online program as of a year ago. So one offer, one client, one message. What that did was simplified everything. I only have really one marketing vehicle, and I have one marketing message that I put out there for one person. And so everything is pointing in the same direction, which allows you to just go straight up and attract only the right people for your business. So everything is hyper targeted and intentional, which allows you to bring in the best humans to work with. So the offer is the Authority Accelerator. I'm going to say the AA. And that is our signature program where we help people take their unique genius and package it into a highly scalable online course business. And we've been running this program now for 4 years. And this became the sole focus of the business. The one ideal client is a burnt out expert, so someone who has a skill set or an expertise, but they're unfulfilled and feel like they're constantly on a hamster wheel chasing down their next client because they're trading time for money and they're hitting that income and impact ceiling, and they're at a place where they feel completely invisible despite their wealth of knowledge and expertise. And we help them detach their time from their income and create a highly scalable and impactful business model using online programs. So that's our one ideal client, and therefore all of our messaging centers around this client and what would resonate with them. So we don't have to create a ton of content or a ton of messaging, which I'm going to talk about in a second, as part of this strategy that you can use in your own business to minimize content, increase profit, increase sales. And I'm not shooting blind. Like, I'm not shooting fish in a barrel. I'm not throwing spaghetti at the wall. I know exactly what every piece of content should be and who it should be for. So it makes it really, really easy to make the content effective and high converting. Next up, obviously, once you've got these things dialed, you need to attract leads. And from there, they turn into sales. So in terms of leads, and I'm going to dig into these numbers and the equation for you in a second of how many leads you actually need to make your business highly profitable. But we recognize that we didn't really need a ton of leads to hit the goal that we had for the business to make it super profitable and successful last year. And so knowing that particular number and knowing the equation, which I will get into in a second, made lead generation really, really easy. And the leads essentially really came from mainly an organic strategy. We tried to focus on an organic strategy. Of course, we do paid advertising as well, but we really put an emphasis and focus on organic. And the main platform for that is YouTube. Why? Because whenever somebody searches for our area of expertise, we're showing up everywhere they look. If you look up online course, you're probably going to see one of my videos somewhere. Maybe that's how you landed here. So we're attracting new eyeballs every single day, and we're not paying for it. It's free through the search functionality on YouTube, which is why this platform has been my favorite forever and has done so well for us in the business. And from there, obviously, it's converting people into clients. And our sales process is very simple. We actually speak to people to ensure they're the right fit. And then if they are, they're invited into the program. But because we don't need a ton of people in the program and a ton of leads, and we really want to focus on serving at the highest level and having the right number of people in our program, it makes the sales process super smooth, super easy, and high touch, so that we actually have a relationship before you even get into the program itself, which is really, really important to me because I've done sales in all different kinds of ways. From there, building out the teams. We have a tiny but mighty team. I just recently did a video on this and how our team is kind of structured out. You can check out that video right here. And from there, obviously, we just dialed in our operations. You know, we really focused on how can we do the most with the least in our business, really juice the lemon. And because our team is small, everyone is kind of a Swiss Army knife, and everybody is really clear on what their specific role is in the business. So we have everything covered, and underneath all of their roles, everything is duplicatable. So there are specific SOPs, standard operating procedures. There are specific structures for everybody's role, so that if one person leaves, it can be taken over easily, and we all are clear on what everybody is doing. So having clear operations only really comes into play when all of the rest of these factors are taken care of. So once you get to a certain place in your business, that's when operations becomes really important to make it this well-oiled machine to keep growing. But because we keep things so simple, the operations are quite simple. We don't do anything complicated, fancy, or out there. It's pretty standard, pretty simple. So those are the factors in your business. So those are the places to start looking at in terms of how can you simplify, and we're going to get into that right now. So this was one of my key strategies, one of the 3 I'm going to share today. Identifying content cost. Now that might sound bizarre to you because you may have been sort of inundated with messaging that says you have to be creating all of the content all of the time for all of the platforms in order to be seen and heard. This is going to make a lot of sense to you as I go through the next couple of steps as to why that isn't necessarily something you need to do, and it actually could be working against you. So identifying the content cost is a really simple equation in your business. You want to basically look at the last year and add up all of the pieces of content that you've created, get that total number of videos, posts, etc. that you've created, and then divide your revenue by that number. So for our business, I made 32 YouTube videos last year. And when I take all of the total revenue in our business and divide that by the number of content pieces, it means that for those 32 videos, each video averaged out to being worth around $150,000. So 32 pieces of content, $150,000 per video. When I average that out based on this equation. So I take the total amount of revenue, divide that by the number of pieces of content that I created, and that equals $150,000 per YouTube video. Now here's where this gets really interesting. As you create more content and you're kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall and you're feeling the need to push content at all times, the amount per piece of content decreases. And that's what you want to watch out for. What is the average value of a piece of content that you create based on how much content you're creating and what your total revenue is? Because if you're seeing it's a really, really low number, it means you're creating way more content than you need to. And it's a key indicator that your content is not landing with your ideal client and is not converting. Does that make sense? Let me know in the comments below. Super easy way to stay on track in terms of not overdoing it with content and being really intentional with content you create for the right person. Okay, so financial forecasting. So this may look a little bit complicated, but it's actually quite simple. First and foremost, based on last year, take a look and see what you did in terms of total revenue and go, okay, this year I want to do maybe the same, maybe a little more. But most importantly, what was the profit for you last year? Maybe you didn't have last year, maybe it's the first year in business, which is great. What's the profit number that you want to hit? That's going to allow you to identify your key expenses in your business and keep them below a certain mark so you're ensuring you're hitting this profit number on a monthly basis and you're totaling the amount of profit you want by the end of the year. How you really do that is you need to identify, and for us this is how we did it because we did have a business prior, we had this business last year. We look at, okay, this was the revenue we brought in, but what was the actual cash collected that we brought into the business? Because that's the most important piece. What was the actual cash brought in on hand in the business? So what was the average percentage of the revenue that was actually collected on a monthly and yearly basis? Once you know that and the amount of cash collected for the year, you want to look at that and go, okay, if we want to achieve the same amount of cash collected this year, we need to divide that amount by our current price point for our program or our online course. And that's going to tell you how many clients you actually need to achieve this amount of cash collected, which then indicates, okay, if that's how much cash we're collecting and this is our profit target, we have to keep our expenses at this number for the year, okay? So for us, it made it very simple. We realized that in order to hit our targets, it was like 500 clients for the year. And that's a number that is so comfortable in terms of, one, attracting those humans, and two, really ensuring we're inviting the right people into our program. And that's why it's application only, that's why it's invite only, and that's why we don't try and reach the masses or serve the masses, because we want to work with the people who are at the place that are ready to do the work. So having this number in mind makes it incredibly easy to create a marketing plan and to know how many leads we need. And it's not an overwhelming thing where I'm trying to like shoot for the moon and overextend myself and overextend the team and the business to the point that we break. From there, you need to know number of clients, number of leads, metrics that matter in your business. The biggest metrics that matter in your business are understanding the number of clients you need, which we just discussed, and that will indicate how many leads you need. So let's just hypothetically say you want to create $200,000 in revenue, okay? You want $200,000 in revenue in your business. From there, let's just say your price point is $5K for your program, okay? So you divide 2,000 by 5K, that equals 40 clients. 40 clients in an entire 12-month year. That's doable, right? So 40 clients for the year. And what you need to do in terms of an equation, I always use this number because it's kind of like the average baseline number in order to hit your target. So 20%. If you can convert 20% of leads, which is, like I said, kind of average, into paying clients, how would you get to 40 clients? Very simple. 40 times 5. That equals 200 leads. So when you times the number of clients that you need by 5, that means that you're going to convert 20% of these people into clients. So 20% of 200 is 40 clients. Makes it very, very simple and doable to know exactly what you need. Why is this so important? It brings me all the way back to the beginning. When you see a number like this, something switches in your brain, and you can tell me if it did for you, where you go, wow, I don't actually need to be constantly busy chasing leads, chasing traffic, trying to go viral, trying to be seen everywhere by everyone. I just need to focus on my ideal humans, get 200 leads in the next 12 months to attract 40 ideal clients that I'm so excited to work with because I'm very particular and selective in who I'm working with because I have that right and that choice to make as the business owner. And that generates multiple 6 figures in your business. Pretty cool, right? So this makes me so excited to share because I think it really does, and you can tell me, simplify it. And that really was the key to the amount of growth that we had last year. And here's the really interesting part too. Our revenue actually decreased from the year before, but for me, revenue doesn't mean a lot because revenue is not the thing that allows you the peace to hit the pillow at night and go to sleep. It's profit and that security blanket in your business and knowing you have cash to be able to be flexible and abundant and to be adaptable in your business. That's what matters. And so we increased our profit, like I said, by $1 million from the year before, even though our revenue decreased, because we focused on what actually mattered in the business and simplified and created space and created peace. And I felt so much better because I wasn't running myself ragged, that I could lead from a better place and serve from a better place. And that for me is my definition of success. It's peace and purpose. And of course, profitability is a big part of that as well in order to achieve those things. So if you're at a place where you're like, yeah, I'm ready for this, I hope this was helpful. And I really do. Comments are my love language. Leave a comment below and let me know. And I have put together a whole playlist on creating an online course business with a bunch of resources in the description below. And like I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg. And if you're at a place too this year where you're like, I want to take this seriously, I want to do this, I want to create this online course business that I can scale, it's what we do. And you can click the link in the description below to apply to speak to a real human on my team so we can best support you on that journey. And like I said, it's not like we work with all of the people in the world. We have a very particular number and we're super intentional about who we do work with. So fill out that application with a lot of detail so we can really know how to best support you moving forward. And we hope to speak to you soon. So hope you enjoyed the video. Hope this made sense. And I cannot wait to read your comments. Be sure to give this a like. Be sure to subscribe for new videos every week. And be sure to check out the playlist next. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.